How you doing, everyone? Brian Sr. here with Political Truths 832. If you are a true blue, red-blooded, liberty-loving, Bible-thumping, gun-toting, truth-seeking, fed up with the status quo, tyranny-smashing, tossing the tea overboard, American patriot, agent of change, then you are in the right place. Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to put our heads together. We're going to do what Americans do best. We're going to solve problems. We're going to educate one another. We're going to encourage one another as we lift up our families, our friends, our neighbors, and our country. The American dream, it lives here. Oh man, they get a really big show today. It's got so much information to cover. There's so much going on right now. It's just an amazing time to be an American citizen. And we have mountains in front of us, but mountains were made for climbing. And not only that, but God says that he can move a mountain. So let's go ahead and take just a second. We're going to pray real quick and get this thing kicked off. Dear Lord, we love you. We praise you. We know that you are sovereign of the universe. You are in control. There's nothing that happens that you're not aware of, Lord. Just help us to focus in on you, to draw upon your strength, to help us in our fight to bring this country back to you, to glorify you. We do this in Jesus' name. We love you. We praise you. Amen. So anyway, like I was saying, there's a ton of stuff going on right now. The big thing that's going on, obviously, is the election. If it was stolen or if it's legitimate, there's a lot of people working on that right. A lot of people working on that right now. A little technical difficulty there. A lot of people working on that. Lawyers, everybody and their brother seems to be jumping in on this. The media and the Democrats are trying to say there's nothing to see here. And I just think back to the old democracy dies in darkness that I think it was a Washington Post put out some sort of a article on democracy dies in darkness. I think it was a commercial that they did. And that's never been more true than it is right now. It's kind of ironic that they came up with that because that's what's been going on. They're like trying to sweep this thing under the rug and just close the door on it. Nothing to see here, but I think there's a lot to see. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot going on with voting irregularities. But anyway, everybody and their brother has been covering that. That's not going to be my focus today. I'm just going to go real quick through a couple of things related to that. That is on December 14th, 7 states sent a slate of Democratic electors chose Joe Biden. Well, those 7 states also sent Republican electors to cast votes for President Trump. So that means we have a contested election. That creates what they call the dueling electors. So both groups are sending certificates of assertion to Congress, which is slated to convene in a joint session January 6th, 2021. So that's going to be a big day. I would love to go to Washington, D.C. on that day. We'll see if that can happen or not. Probably not, but man, that would be cool. See what happens there. Back in 1960, the governor of Hawaii certified electors for Republican candidate Richard Nixon. Democrat electors cast their votes for Democrat John F. Kennedy. So when you hear all the mainstream media saying this is not right, this is bad, they're trying to cheat, they're trying to do this and that. Listen, the Democrats did this in 1960. This is nothing new. It's been done in the 1800s. This is how the process works. Let's see here. A subsequent recount determined Kennedy won the state, and he was declared the winner in the joint session of 1961. So that election flipped because they sent the dual electors, and later on they found out that Kennedy won. It's amazing how the Democrats always seem to find these votes after the tallies have been calculated. They just keep finding more and more and more votes. They pull the old Al Franken deal, but I guess John Kennedy did it before Al Franken. It's been going on for a long time. So it's an uphill battle. You need one senator and one congressman to push forth this objection. Um, and right now, there is no senator. Maybe we can count on Mitt Romney. Probably not. Mitch McConnell, probably can't count on him, but there's got to be at least one senator. Who knows? Maybe Rand Paul will step up to the plate, or who knows? Somebody's got to do it. So anyway, January 6th, marking on your calendar. It's going to be a big day. But that's not the focus of today's program. As I said before, my main goal here is to encourage one another, to lift each other up, to educate one another. We have to find reasonable, rational ways to take back the power, give it back to the people where it belongs. We've spent too long, decades and decades of just being steamrolled by the people that are supposed to be looking out for us. It's not cool at all, and there's a lot of people that are just sick and tired of it, and I'm one of them. So California, they're having a recall for Governor Gavin Newsom. It's kind of a big deal. It's really starting to pick up momentum. There's been over 850,000 signatures on that petition, which I think I mentioned this in the last program, in the last episode. That is really disappointing to me because, like I said before, 5.9 million people in California voted for President Trump. And yet we only have 850,000 votes on a petition to get rid of the tyrant Gavin Newsom. I don't know if you can see it here, but I got the Recall Gavin Newsom banner up. This is the banner that I was carrying around with me at the Huntington Beach protest that I went to a couple weeks ago. Got some signatures out there. I got to tell you, this is the easiest thing in the world to do. It's 3 boxes, and it's just amazing. There's 3 boxes there to put in. You print your name, you sign your name, and you put your address, and that's it. It's just that easy. Also, you can download it. I'm gonna have a link here, or not a link, but I'm actually gonna put a video up. I recorded my screen on my computer going through all the steps on how to download this petition yourself. Before I got involved with this, I thought it was a big deal and it was hard to do. It's the easiest thing in the world. You just click on the Gavin Newsom Recall 2020, takes you to the official website. Then you basically can download the form right there off your computer, print out 100 of them if you want, 2 of them, 1 of them, 1,000 of them, it doesn't matter, but you do it on your computer. It's so easy. And then you can actually circulate the petition yourself. And I thought, man, when am I ever going to have time on a Saturday? It's going to be like a whole day I have to burn to go out and set up and easy up and go out and wait somewhere in the hot sun or the cold weather. And it's just going to be really taxing on me. I don't have time for that. Well, what I found out is that I've had people approach me to sign it. I'm not even having to go out and look for people. There were 2 guys at work the other day that said, "Hey, I heard you had this petition for Gavin Newsom and we haven't signed it." And I said, "Yeah, I got it in the truck, man." So they went and signed it just like that. Got 2 signatures. I didn't have to do anything. And so it's just that easy. Just download it off your computer. I'm going to show you how to do that. And carry it around in your car. Take it with you to Christmas. I mean, I know there's probably going to be a couple of Biden folks at your Christmas parties or whatever, but there's going to be a lot of, liberty-loving people there too. They can sign it right there. It's just that easy. So anyway, here's a short video of how to download it off the computer at your home, at your convenience, whenever you feel like doing it. It's super easy. This is how you do it. Okay, so here we go. This is so easy. All you do is you click on your browser, type in Recall Gavin Newsom. That's going to take you to this page here, to the official site. You click on that. Now you're on the page for Recall Gavin Newsom. You can see they have the 850,000 vote or signatures so far. You click on the download the petition, and that takes you to this page here, official recall petition. This, what we're scrolling up to right now, is the actual petition that you take with you to have people sign. You can see it's just print name, signature, and full address. If you keep scrolling down, there's a video that tells you in detail exactly how to do this. So we'll click on that video here and it'll tell you exactly what to do.
Here's how to fill out the petition correctly so your signature counts. Everyone signing this sheet needs to be registered to vote in the county you write here. Write this first so people from multiple counties don't write on the same sheet. It doesn't matter where the signature was obtained, it matters where the physical addresses are located that go in the blocks below. If you're obtaining signatures from multiple counties, you will need multiple sheets. Let's look at the blocks below. Print your name legibly in the print box. Use the signature you used when you registered to vote. If you registered through the DMV, then it's the signature on your driver's license. If you're not registered to vote in California, then go online and register now at registertovote.ca.gov. Let's talk a little more about signatures. Please try to stay in the lines. If you have a little bit of swoop to your Y's or your G's, that's acceptable. Also, do your best to stay out of the Secretary of State box. Circulators, if you get a little bit of writing that goes into this box, do not throw the petition out. It could still be used. There are exemptions. Use the address that you used when you registered to vote. Do not use P.O. boxes here. If you are homeless, put the best description of where your tent or living quarters are located. Do not abbreviate street names or cities. You can use abbreviations for things like drive, street, or boulevard. The declaration is for circulators, or if you're filling out your own petition, then you also need to complete this section. Start by printing your full name. Then print your full street address. If no street number exists, explain how to find the location. These blanks are for the date range in which you obtain the above signatures. This very well could be the same date. This is the date you are signing this form. For circulators, this is the city where you obtain the signatures. If you are filling this petition out for yourself, this is your city. Sign here, put the date here. When you're finished, you can turn it into your county authorized person. You can find them on recallgavin2020.com, or you can mail the petition to the address at the bottom. Thank you for making a difference.
So that's pretty much it. It's just that easy. So now you can go out and get 100 signatures, 1,000 signatures, 5,000, 10,000, whatever you want. You can look like a hero at the Christmas party this year. Everybody's going to think you're so well connected politically that you somehow managed to go through this difficult process to get the recall Gavin Newsom petition in your hot little hands. But it's just so easy. If you're looking here at this screen, and this is actually a sample ballot that you can download so that you can actually show people this is how you do it. John Hancock signature, full address, that whole thing. So I apologize for the audio quality on this thing. When I did my recording of my screen, going through the motions to click here and there, it came back with no audio, so I had to dub in an audio, and things got a little crazy there. Got some static and some sound issues, but basically this is it. You download the ballot, and then you can print it right off your computer. It's just that easy. Very simple stuff. Anybody can do it. You'll look like a hero to all your friends and family. So then that's it. Okay, see how easy that was? Nothing to it. So simple. So recalls are one of the tools that we have at our disposal to take our government back. It's an easy process to initiate. It's not always successful. And I think that mostly that's because people don't get involved. Right now, we're in a point in our history where people want to be involved. They have a yearning to do something. And if it's something as easy as just signing a piece of paper, I think they're going to be like real willing and able to do that without any hassles. Excuse me. So that's something that we need to focus on. As part of this program, part of the intro is that we're going to put our heads together. We're going to do what Americans do best. We're going to solve problems. So that's what we're doing right now. This is a tool that we have at our disposal to solve problems. Gray Davis in California, he was had a recall. He was gone. There's been several other recalls across the country that have worked out. It's just a matter of getting involved. I was blown away at just how simple the process is, like I said before. So I did some research. There's a website called Ballotpedia, Ballotpedia. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been on that website quite a bit. It's pretty cool. It's got a lot of information on any questions that you have concerning voting and politics in general. It's a great website. I encourage you to check it out. I want to equip people. I want to arm you guys to go out and be information warriors. This whole cyber warrior thing and having these arguments on Facebook, that's all great to pass the time, but it's not going to accomplish what we need to accomplish. We need to arm ourselves with information. So, just as a background, the recall process by which citizens may remove elected officials their positions before the end of their term. That's what a recall is. It's a process which citizens can remove elected officials before the end of their term. It should not be confused with the legislative process of removing officials called impeachment. So it's not an impeachment. This is something of the people, for the people, by the people. That's what this is, recalls. So there are, I think, 9 or 10 states that don't have recall provisions. And so those states without recall provisions are Delaware, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Mississippi, New Hampshire, New York, Pennsylvania, unfortunately, South Carolina, Utah, and Vermont. So if you're in these states right here, maybe you should start rattling some cages to see if you can implement a recall process, because that's a tool that every citizen should have at their disposal. So there's a whole bunch of information on that Ballotpedia. It's really good. Um, let's see here. So state officials can be, every state's a little bit different, and I'll go through that a little more in focus here in a few minutes. I'm going to look at some of the battleground states, because if the judicial system isn't going to do their job and you're being screwed over by your elected officials, well, guess what? Kick them out of office. We need to take this back. We need to take the power back. So let's see here. What other information do I have to share about this? So there are 39 states that allow for recall of local elected officials. Like I said, every state has a different process, different rules, different people that can be elected or recalled, different officials that can be recalled. Some allow judges, some don't allow judges, some allow only the governor. I think there's one state, I'll find it here in a minute, that says only the governor can be recalled, nobody else. But there are 39 states that allow for a recall of elected officials. This may only apply in limited situations in some states, which is generally listed below. I have a list here of all the states that I got from the Ballotpedia. Maybe I'll try to put a link on that or something on my website, which is politicaltruths832.com. If you're new here, the 832 is from John, from the Bible, John 8:32. It says, "You shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free." Political Truths 832, we are going to make you free. We're going to give you more liberty here. If we work together, we can get this done. So other states listed below, let me see. Other states not listed may also have limited local recall due to home rule provisions. In those cases, the states allow cities and counties to adopt their own charters, which could then provide for local recall even if no other city in the county in the state allows it, or city, county, state allows it. So look this stuff up. Get involved. It's all just a click away. We live in the information age, which I had an article in a blog post that I put up on November 27th on politicaltruths832.com that, kind of outlines that we live in the misinformation age more than the information age. But we do have a lot of tools at our fingertips that we can look at and get information on how to get things done to take our government back. So I would suggest going to your, either go to Ballotpedia, it has links for every state, and you can check out all the rules in whatever state you live in. But this is an important tool that we got to utilize. Let's see, what else do I have highlighted here? So one question that came up for me was, can we recall federally elected officials? In other words, senators and congressmen from our state, congressmen or women. The United States Constitution does not provide for a recall of any federally elected official. The option was considered during the drafting of the document in 1787, but was not included in the final version. So they talked about it. They did a lot of research on this. They were historians and they knew a lot about world history and the governments of the world. And so they had a lot of debates about this sort of stuff. They didn't put it in, but some state constitutions have stated the right of citizens to recall their members of the United States Congress. But whether it's constitutionally legal at the federal level has not yet been ruled upon by the United States Supreme Court. So, yes, no, we don't know. Who knows? But that doesn't say you shouldn't try to do it. I mean, if they tell you no, they tell you no. But we need to take that power back. I'm going to say it 1,000 times. We need to take the power back. One of the closest noted legal precedent is U.S. Term Limits Incorporated versus Thornton, in which the Supreme Court decided that the states did not have the right to impose new terms, qualifications, or conditions of service on federal officials. It doesn't really address the recall, other than maybe new terms. They could probably squash that in there as being under that category. Some of the states have released opinions and rulings on recall of members of U.S. Congress, of the U.S. Congress. That was one sentence. I was going to keep going to the next one. Attorneys General in Arkansas, 2010, Louisiana, 2009, Kansas, 1994, Nevada, 1978, and Oregon in 1935 all issued opinions against the recall of federal officials. Conversely, the Attorney General of Wisconsin in 1979 gave an opinion that state administration could not reject a petition for a recall of a member of the U.S. Congress. In 2010, the Supreme Court of New Jersey ruled against federal recall, and the Supreme Court of North Dakota also upheld an opinion by the state's attorney general against federal recall, which I think is ridiculous. We should be able to recall anybody. You know, I'm tired of these guys making rules that benefit them and screw us over. So we need to start challenging that. Federal court in Michigan court stopped a recall petition against a member of Congress in 2007. A federal court in 1967 dismissed a case from Idaho where petitioners hoped to require the state to accept petitions seeking recall of a U.S. senator. So the cases have been out there. I think the political climate that we live in now is going to be much more conducive to people getting involved in recalls. Like I said, these guys make rules that benefit them and screw us over. They take us out of the picture and we just let them do it. It's time to stop. We need to stand up to them. So I already talked about the states with no recall provisions. There's 10 of them. Let's see. In some states, now every state's different. Some have you have to have specific grounds to recall. Some are more broad and some are just no rules whatsoever. You can recall anybody for any reason. In some states that allow a recall can only occur under certain circumstances. An example of this is Georgia, in the news today, where an elected official may only be recalled under the circumstances of an act of malfeasance or misconduct while in office. I think we've got that. Secretary of State, the governor, all kinds of them have done that. So check on that box. Let's see. Malfeasance or misconduct while in office. Violation of the oath of office, protect and defend the Constitution. I think they've violated that one. Failure to perform duties as prescribed by law. Secretary of State in Georgia did not perform their duties as prescribed by law. They went above the legislation. They went around the rules, and they did something that was unconstitutional. They did that in Pennsylvania also. Let's see. Or willfully misusing, converting, or misappropriating without authority public property or public funds entrusted to or associated with the elective office to which the official has been elected or appointed. In other states, recalls may proceed without having to fit within a prescribed set of grounds. And then this is all from the Ballotpedia page, and there's a whole list right here, a whole list of allowable grounds for recall for each of the states. Alaska is lack of fitness, incompetence, neglect of duties, or corruption. So each state's a little bit different. Missouri, misconduct in office, incompetence, and failure to perform duties prescribed by the law. Incompetence. Man, that could wipe out a whole bunch of them if they all had that as a listing. um, so anyway, all these different states have different ways. You got to look it up. Whatever state you're in, look at it. There's also the National Conference of State Legislatures. It outlines all of the different states and all of their rules and regulations regarding recall efforts. So that's that one. This here is also more stuff related to. This is actually from the State Council of Governments website, and there's a couple pages here that outline all of the codes involved and all of the requirements for, for the recalls. So in California, we're having a recall right now, and it's going pretty good. It's picking up steam. It really needs to go probably better. We've got a couple more months to get 700,000 votes, so we're over the halfway point. There's a gentleman I interviewed a couple weeks ago, or last week on Tuesday or Wednesday, in Redlands, California. There was a Open Up Redlands rally, and there's a guy there by the name of Major Williams who is running against Gavin Newsom, hopefully in before 2022, but Gavin Newsom is up for re-election 2022. So this is a short interview I had with him. I thought this was a pretty good answer. It's pretty inspiring, and this is the clip right here. So what kind of hurdles do you have in front of you, and how do you plan on I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, this is like the political machine of California is unrivaled. So how do you plan on breaking through that?
Well, you break through it from a variety of ways, but you also take advantage of timing.
Right.
If this was a year or two ago, I wouldn't run. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the optics, the statistics and the data, and being able to travel up and down the state, you'll see that my shirt says United in Frustration. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you're independent. What I've been able to explore and learn and engage is that people are unified in frustration right now.
Yes.
So in that essence right there alone, there is an opportunity that exists more than the money that they can raise in a machine. And also people are waking up. People are being misled, people are being educated, and some people are just recognizing that we're dealing with a spiritual war. Yes. So even the Christians are starting to step out more. The church leaders are starting to step out more. So whenever there's a time when something great has happened, it came from pushback, an obstacle. This is going to be the breakthrough, and that's what we truly believe is happening right now. So we don't have any fear about a machine. Right. We don't have any fear about their ability to fundraise. We don't have any fear about fraud, because it's happening on the national level, and now on the statewide level it's going to be highlighted even more so, with closer eyes from the judicial system attached to it.
Yeah, that's
so
what
it's
I'm
actually
hoping.
setting us up.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping, that they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar in the national election. Now it's going to be a little more scrutiny on everybody. Our elections might get a little more fair.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely, man.
Thank you very much. I'll be behind you. Thank you.
Absolutely. God bless you.
Okay, so that was Major Williams, and he's helping out with the recall Gavin Newsom petition, and I might play another clip here if I can find it. He brought up a good point. He had people raise their hands at this rally if they had signed the Gavin Newsom petition, the recall. And he said just about everybody's hands went up. Then he asked, how many of you are responsible for 10 people or 20 people signing this petition? A lot of the hands went down, or a few up. And then he said, how many people are responsible for 100 people signing this petition? And it was basically just a couple of hands left up. But that brings up a really good point. It's one thing to sign it. It's another thing to multiply your power and your voice by 10 or by 20 or by 50 or 100. That's how we're going to get this thing done. So go and download that 2020 Recall Gavin Newsom application. It's not even an application. You just download the paperwork to fill out to have people sign. It's so easy. Anyway, we need to do that. So in California, let's see here. The authority to conduct a recall election in California applies to officials at the state and local levels. As with most states, the right of recall in California does not extend to recalling federal politicians, which I think we should change that. In California, citizens can recall judges of courts of appeal and trial courts. So that's something that we can do that some states can't. I think we might need to explore that option too. Anyway, for state officials, for recall of state officials, proponents must file a notice of intent to recall petition signed by 65 voters. So you get this notice of intent, and you need 65 people to sign it. It's just that easy. 65 people. That's not hard to do. So signed by 65 voters in order to begin the petition drive process. For the actual petition of signatures, must equal a percentage of the total number of votes most recently cast for the targeted office. So we're going after Gavin Newsom, so we got to get 25% of the vote total that he got the last time he was elected, or the first time he was elected in this case. Let's see. So 12% for executive officials. That would be Gavin Newsom or a governor or anyone in the executive branch of your local state government. And 20% for legislators and judges. In addition, the petition must include signatures from each of the last. Let me do that again. The petition must include signatures from each of at least 5 counties equal in number to 1% of the last vote for the office in that county. So 1%, you have to have 5 counties, whatever the vote total for the last time the dude was elected, you have to have 1% of that vote total in 5 different counties, as well as 25% total of the vote total to get that going or to get that done. Local officials, a number of valid signatures required to put a local recall question on the ballot is determined by the following rules. 30% for jurisdictions with 1,000 voters, registered voters or less. 25% for 1,000 to 10,000 registered voters. 20% for 10,000 to 50,000 registered voters. 15% for 50 to 100,000 voters, and 10% in jurisdictions with 100,000 or more registered voters. So each jurisdiction, and so like if you're just going after the city dog catcher, then you only have to get probably whatever those percentages are, 30% if there's less than 1,000 voters in that district or that community. So it varies, and each state is different. This is California. Let's see. City of Los Angeles adheres to a 15% signature threshold for recall election. This signature requirement is set by the city's charter. So they have their own set of rules concerning recall. County judges, let's see, Section 14 of Article 2 of the California Constitution demands that the required recall petition signatures be equal to 20% of the votes cast for the judge in the last election rather than a percentage of registered voters. In the case of a county superior court judge position that did not appear on the ballot at the last relevant election, signatures equaling 20% of votes cast for whichever countywide office received the least total number of votes in the most recent general election in the judge's county must be collected to qualify the recall of the judge on the ballot. So that's pretty self-explanatory what they're saying there. Basically, if you don't have the vote total, you go for the lowest vote total of whatever elected official in that county So it's pretty easy threshold for that. So the petition process, the first step in a recall effort is the circulation of petitions. The process begins with the filing of a notice of intent to recall petition written in the proper legal language and signed by 65 voters. So that you can, I'm sure you can download that format for that. You don't have to be a lawyer to get that information to support the intent to recall process. I'm sure you can go online and check that out. Once that's accomplished, the recall petition can be circulated in earnest, not Ernst. Petitions for the recall of statewide officers must be signed by voters equal in number to 12% of the last vote for that office. So we've already covered a lot of this percentage stuff. The recall ballot has two components, a yes or a no. So this is after the recall is successful. You get it put on a ballot, and then it goes and we all vote on it. So every state's different again, like I've said before. California, it's a yes or no. So the recall ballot has two components, a yes or no vote for recall. So it says, do you support the recall, yes or no? If it's no, then you move on. If it's yes, then you vote for a candidate. They combine the vote and the recall as one. Some states will, you have to win the recall, and then they have a subsequent vote after the recall vote is successful. California has both in the same ballot, or on the same ballot, I should say. So yes or no vote for the recall, and the names of the replacement candidates selected by the nomination process used in regular elections. The recall measure itself, if the recall measure itself is successful, if it passes by a majority. So it only needs to be 51% or 50.1% to make a successful recall once it's on the ballot. In that case, the replacement candidate with a simple plurality of votes wins the office. So if you got 5 candidates on there, or let's say 4 candidates on there, and candidate A gets 25%, B gets 25%, C gets 24%, and D gets 26%, then that candidate D wins it. It's just a simple plurality. You don't have to win 50% or anything like that. See, where was I? If the recall measure fails, the replacement candidate votes are ignored. The language in the recall provision is strictly procedural. Substantive grounds for recalls are not specified. Recalls can be launched to remove corrupt officials and to remove officials whose policies and performance are found wanting. Is there any public official who is not found wanting in 2020? I don't know. I think they all fall under that category. I have to apologize. This, in order to get this on a paper, I had to print it out like super small, so I'm struggling to read this here. Let's see. The recall is but one of several mechanisms for removing public officers. Others include the normal criminal process, which I think would apply in California to about 50% of them, impeachment, term limits, and of course the next election, which is another huge thing that we have to get involved with, and that's registering like-minded people to vote. I did some research last night on that for an upcoming podcast episode, and I was blown away that most of the time it's right around 50% of the people who live in whatever county, town, city, whatever the election is, only about 50% of the people vote, which is kind of a bummer. You know, we all need to get involved, and I just wonder what the percentage is of conservative versus liberal on that 50% that doesn't vote. You know, are there more conservatives that of that 50% that don't vote? Or are there more liberals? Is that something, you know, like I said, we're putting our heads together. We're going to do what Americans do best. We're going to solve problems. That could be a problem that we could solve by getting those, if there are. I'll have to do some more research on that. But I have a feeling that most of that 50% that doesn't vote are probably pretty conservative. You know, they're not these liberal wackos out there. But California, man, there was one, the 13th congressional district is 90% Democrat. How is that even possible, man? That is amazing to me. Talk about your echo chamber. But I think that's just a byproduct. It was up in Northern California in the Bay Area. And that, I believe, is just because if you don't go along to get along, you will be ridiculed. You will be persecuted. We're looking at these judges and these lawyers. You got lawyers that won't even go to work for President Trump to try to win this election because they are afraid of the backlash that they will receive. And I think that's probably plays into the Bay Area why these candidates win with 90% of the vote, because you probably, if you speak your mind out there and you don't go along to get along, they're just going to make your life miserable. But in that district where there's 90% support for the Democrat candidate, at least on the official vote tallies, again, 50% didn't vote. So I'll have more on that on an upcoming episode. Let's see if I can focus on this tiny print here. Let's see. Petitioners for recall of an official must submit a notice of intention to the city or district clerk for a local recall and to the California Secretary of State for a state recall. Has to have the following elements. It has to have the name and the title of the officer sought to be recalled, a statement not exceeding 200 words in length for the reason of the proposed recall. Let's see, the printed name, signature, and residence address of each of the proponents of the recall. If a proponent cannot receive mail at a resident address, he or she must provide an alternative mailing address. So there's 3 provisions for that. Proponents, let's see, publication of the notice of intent. Proponents must, if possible, publish the notice of intent in a general circulation newspaper. If no such newspaper operates in the jurisdiction of the officer to be recalled, proponents must post notice of intent in at least 3 public places. All right, so it's a pretty simple process. I mean, there's a little bit of stuff that you got to do, but it's really not anything that is out of the reach of a normal, everyday citizen. Excuse me. So there are some restrictions on who can circulate a petition. Recall petition circulator must be a registered voter in the jurisdiction of the official against whom the recall is sought. So you have to live there. If you're just going after your, Los Angeles mayor, then if you don't live within the boundaries of Los Angeles, then you can't circulate the petition. What else have we got highlighted here? So the ballot language on the election ballot, the following question must be asked of voters. We talked about this a second ago. It shall name the officer sought to be recalled, removed from the office that they occupy. So the election results, and I think we talked about this also a little bit, but there's a little more in depth. If a majority of electors vote yes, and you are the elector, if a majority of electors vote yes on the recall question, the official in question will be recalled from office. If a majority of electors vote no, the official will remain in office. That's pretty plain and simple. In the event of a successful recall, the replacement candidate who receives the most votes. So we went over that. If you get 1% or 0.1% more than the other candidates on the ballot, you win. That's how the governor got in. He was part of the Gray Davis recall. So the laws in Michigan, I'm not going to go as in depth, but it's a little bit different. So Michigan is one of the 9 states with provisions that say the right of recall extends to recalling members of its federal congressional delegation, but it has not been clear whether federal courts would allow the state to actually recall their federal politicians, which is something I think is huge. We need to, that should be part of it, man. I mean, they should be, they should submit in written form. I know you can't outline how you will vote on every single vote, but you have to put it in writing. This would be great, in my view, if you could do this. Whatever candidate, they have to put in writing what they would vote on concerning the big topics. You know, you got your gun control, or I hate that term, and I'm going to do an episode about that. We can't use the leftist terminology. Gun control is a false term, and I just committed a sin by using that false term. I'm trying to not use their terminology anymore because language matters. It's important. But Second Amendment rights, First Amendment rights, you know, the right to any number of things. There's the abortion issue. There's you know, healthcare. You know, is it a right or is it a service provided by people? You could lay out a number of things on this questionnaire. And then if they go against that, you know, we have a written log of everything they promise to do, because they come around and they make all these promises and then they just lie and they don't do what they told us they were going to do. And that just annoys me. And if they go against, I think we should make them write it all on paper. If they go against it, you're out. That's it. You're done. You can't lie to us and tell us one thing and then do another, you know, and that goes for the judges too. You know, we got these 3 judges that, Supreme Court justices that President Donald Trump, there's another one, got to say President Trump. Don't ever say Trump, President Trump every time. Really gets under the liberal skins. So these 3 justices, they are not performing as advertised. And that seems to be like widespread with the justices that get nominated by conservatives or Republicans. All the Democrats, man, when they put a justice in, they know exactly what they're getting, because they basically have a litmus test for their justice nominations. They say, if you don't do this, I'm not going to nominate you. Where the conservatives, we try to be fair and say we want open-minded justices. And then they end up throwing us under the bus later. So that's part of the stuff going on in Michigan as far as laws governing recall in Michigan. According to Michigan, you have to, let's see, it says a recall petition must first be filed with the appropriate board, which then holds a hearing to determine whether the reasons for the petition are factual and clear. That is the only criteria considered by the board to approve or reject the petition. It says click here to learn more about these hearings and which board conducts them. So if you're in Missouri, you go on the Ballotpedia, laws governing Michigan recall. You can click to that link. Once approved by the board, the petitioner must amass a number of signatures equal to 25% of the number of votes cast in the last general election in the electoral district of the officer sought to be recalled. So it says 25% of the number of votes cast. So that means probably not what that person got for vote totals, but the total number of votes cast. So that's a pretty high bar. They also have 60 days to collect the signatures. It used to be 90 days, and then they changed it to 60 days. These clever lawyers that are just the ruling class over us, they just keep changing the rules to benefit them and hurt us. Why would you not allow 90 days? Why is 60 days more optimal? Because 60 days means it's less time for them to lose their stinking jobs. So we need to figure out a way to expand those days, make it easier to recall. So anyway, let's see, 60 days to collect. However, the petition must be submitted no later than 180 days after it was approved by the board. Okay, so the 60 days is actually the petitioner, it's actually from the date of the first signature, and you have 180 days to turn it in. So that means basically, if you're smart, you get the permission to do the recall, and you wait to get that first signature maybe because you only have 60 days, but you have 180 days to turn it in. So what you can do, in my view, the best thing you would do is promote the crap out of this for the first, what is it? You have 180 days. So the first 90, 120 days or whatever it is, you have 120 days to get the word out, 60 days to collect the votes, or not votes, but signatures, and then turn it in within that 180-day period. So you got to be smart about it. And then it says here, what else did I highlight? It says the clerk or secretary of state then has 35 days to determine the validity of the signatures on the petition by verifying the voter registration status of those who signed, which I don't think that's a thing in 2020 anymore, right? We don't do signature verification. We don't do any of that for elections anymore. So why should we do it for petitions? The procedures count. The Dems understand this and prepare for their desired outcome. That's why they spent all that time and money with lawyers in key battleground states trying to get rid of all of the safeguards for voter fraud and election fraud. They spent all of 2019 doing this, and the Republicans just sat on their hands while they did it. It's pretty discouraging. So the term clarity and factual, that's their threshold for the process, that you have to make sure it's clear, it's clear and factual. The clarity and factual hearing is a first step in the recall process. Michigan law states that the reason for the petition must be deemed factual and clear before the recall petition can be placed in circulation. So you can't just make up a lie about somebody, which is good, but this whole factual and clear, it's kind of a gray area, and I think they do that on purpose so they can manipulate language to say, oh, no, that's not clear at all what you want. And, you just got to be careful with that. Be clear, be factual. Language matters. Michigan laws explicitly state the criteria for judging a petition as factual and clear. This means that any reason whatsoever can be placed on the petition and approved for circulation so long as it is clearly stated and does not contain falsehoods. So that's a good way of looking at it. Just be clear and don't lie, which is something we should do every day anyway. The clarity and factual hearing must be held within 10 to 20 days after filing the petition. Okay, so that's Michigan, and all of these are pretty much the same with slight differences in the procedures and the requirements and the percentages that you have to get. So, like for instance, who may be recalled in Wisconsin. The right of recall in Wisconsin extends to all elective offices in the state, but only after the elected official has served 1 full year or 1 full year in his or her current term of office. Specifically, the right of recall extends to all statewide executive officers, including the governor of Wisconsin, the lieutenant governor of Wisconsin, the Wisconsin treasurer, the attorney general of Wisconsin, the Wisconsin secretary of state, which needs to go, bye, see ya, and the governor, bye, see ya. The Wisconsin superintendent of public instruction probably needs to go. All of the members of the Wisconsin State Senate and Wisconsin State Assembly. So every state is real clear on what you need to do. So who can initiate it? In Wisconsin, the person who files a recall petition is referred to as the petitioner for that particular recall effort. To be a recall petitioner, that person must be a qualified elector of the election district from which the office holder was elected. So again, the elector, you and me, we are all the electors. Means you're a registered voter, basically. In Wisconsin, a qualified elector is someone who is a citizen of the United States, 18 years of age or older, and has resided in the district or jurisdiction where the recall is sought for at least 10 days. All right, so then you got to register with the committee, and it has a number of signatures. Again, it's right around the 25% range. Let's see, definition of a valid signature, which I don't know if that applies in 2020 anymore. Valid signatures are not a big deal as far as I can tell by everything going on in our world today, in our country today. But they say the signature is not valid and therefore cannot be counted if the signature is not dated. Well, we don't care about dates anymore, really. The signature is dated, but the date on the signature falls outside of the allowed circulation period, which again in 2020, vote by November 3rd, November 15th, whatever. We're not really following those rules anymore. So maybe these don't apply anymore either. And also, if it is not possible to determine from the address provided on the petition sheet where that person lives, not really important in 2020. Or the signer is not a qualified elector by reason of age. I think they had a bunch of underage kids voting in, I think it was Nevada. I could be wrong about that. One of those states. But so they have rules, although the rules in 2020 probably do not apply. So moving on to Georgia, and I'm just highlighting this because I'm in California, but we need recalls in all of these contested states. The courts have screwed the people of Georgia. The courts have screwed the people of Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. All these courts are dismissing cases because they don't want to hear it. They're like the la 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 la, not listening. That's what our court system has become. They're afraid to get involved. And whether it's they think they're doing the best thing for us because there's going to be riots if they overturn, and there I did it again. That's the language of the left. We are not trying to overturn an election. We are trying to legitimize an illegitimate election. We are not trying to overturn anything. We are legitimizing what is illegitimate. So all of these places where there's an illegitimate outcome to the election. Another interesting thing, too. The Texas suit that went to the Supreme Court said that Texas didn't have standing. I'm going to share this in a future episode. During my research this week, I learned that in 1966, there was a Supreme Court case where they gave standing to, I believe it was Delaware. And Delaware was suing because they didn't like the fact, and this is something I want to cover in great detail because I think this needs to happen in California. This winner-take-all electoral college thing is not good. There's two states, Nebraska and Maine, that divide their electoral votes between the congressional districts. I think that's a much better way to go. We are a representative republic. Got something going on here with the microphone. We're a representative Republican. Why should my electoral vote go to someone else, another part of my state, just because of the popular vote? The electoral college is made up, in California, there's 55. We have 2 senators and 53 congressional representatives. Total of 55 electoral votes. Each one has a electoral vote owed to them. So if you're in a Republican district with a Republican congressman or woman, why should you be forced to surrender your electoral vote that is owed for that congressional member? That belongs to, obviously, we the people, but that vote is for that congressional member and it represents that district. Why should that district be forced to surrender their electoral vote to a liberal district? That, to me, needs to change. But in 1966, Delaware brought that very point up to the Supreme Court. And guess what? The Supreme Court said, yes, you do have standing. We will hear that case. In Texas, they brought a case that certain states, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, other states, they actually broke the law. And by breaking the law, they changed the outcome of what would have been a legitimate election and made that legitimate election illegitimate by breaking the law, by going against their own state constitution and the United States Constitution and going above the legislators' heads to change election laws and election processes. Texas was denied standing for them breaking the laws. Delaware was granted standing by not agreeing with the way the laws were set up in different states. That makes no sense. But that's just, la 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 la, we're not listening to you. That's the way our courts have gone in 2020. It's disgusting. So anyway, Georgia, again, we covered active malfeasance, misconduct while in office, which check that box. Violation of oath office, check that box. Failure to perform duties as prescribed by law, check on all of that. And then there's one other that's misusing, converting, misappropriating without authority public property or public funds entrusted to or associated with the elective office to which the official has been appointed. That one, you might be able to check that one too, because there's a lot of stuff going around about the billionaires that were pouring money into this election were paying off judges and other things, or not. Technically, they were not paying them off. They were just paying them to do a job, but obviously the job had a directive. So that might be able to be a box that we can check on that one too. Let's see here. So Georgia is pretty much the same. There's a certain percentage of signatures you got to get according to all of the processes and metrics that they use to set those standards. Governing the laws governing recall in Nevada are also very similar. Nevada says every public officer in the state of Nevada is subject to, as herein provided, the recall from office by the registered voters of the state or the county, district, or municipality which he represents. The Nevada Supreme Court ruled in April 2017, however, that judges cannot be recalled. So isn't that convenient? The judges ruled that you can't recall us. You can recall everybody else, but since we're judges, we're going to make a ruling that overrides the actual law, which we're supposed to uphold the law and not change the law. Oh my God, it's so convoluted. The way they've freaking taken advantage of this system is disgusting. But we live in an amazing moment in American history because we have an opportunity. If we stay motivated, if we focus like a laser, we can take these fools out. We can take them out of office. We can kick them out of office. This is one way we can do it with the recall system. There's a bunch of other tools at our disposal that I'm going to keep going over. I'm going to dig. I'm going to find the information. I'm going to share it with you. And you guys have to put it to use. We have to use these tools to take our country back. We live in an amazing time right now. Okay, so although the state's constitutional authorization for recall includes members of U.S. Congress, the Nevada Secretary of State issued an advisory letter in 1978 saying that voters in the state cannot actually vote to recall the federal politicians from their state. So apparently the Secretary of State decided that, screw the Nevada Constitution. I'm calling the shots here. I'm sure that went over well. Obviously, it still standing today, but people in Nevada, do something about that. Force their hand. Say the Constitution overrides the Secretary of State, not the other way around. So they have to file a notice of intent to recall like the other states. Let's see, it's 25% of the number of persons that voted in the last preceding election for the office of the official sought to be recalled. Each signer must be a qualified voter within the district represented by the office holder being recalled. Then later on in June of 2010, so this was 2009, what I just read, what they said, the 25% number. And then in June 2010, the Nevada Supreme Court overturned the lower court ruling and said that signatures on recall petitions, in order to be counted, must be signatures of voters who actually voted in the election at which the official to be recalled was elected. So it's not just everybody who's a registered voter. You would had to have actually voted in that particular election for your signature to be counted. Isn't it funny how they have all these stringent rules to get them out of office, but for voting in 2020, yeah, we're not going to pay attention to the rules. We're going to make every vote count instead of every legal vote. So it's pretty much the same deal as far as Nevada. All of these states are similar. Every state has their own set of rules. We need to take the power back. I know you guys are going to get sick of hearing me say that. I'm sick of saying it, but we need to do it. This is one tool, the recall. The recall is a tool that we have at our disposal. We need to manipulate everything we can do to get that to work to our advantage. We need to take advantage of it, grab hold of it, and swing it like it's Thor's hammer. We need to just start smashing, playing whack-a-mole with all of these politicians that need to get out. They need to do their job. They need to represent us. Like I said, in future episodes, I'm going to talk more about these Supreme Court cases, the Delaware case. I'm going to talk more about other tools at our disposal that we can utilize in taking back our government. So with that, I'm going to leave you, and I hope to see you again. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you next time.